All right, welcome to the April 3rd special meeting of interviews. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. The agenda containing the interview schedule is available at the entrance to this meeting room. Sorry. Each applicant will have 25 minutes total to respond to the questions. That's about 3 minutes a question, just so you guys know. At the completion of all interviews, we will go into an executive session to discuss tonight's interviews. When we are finished, we will come out of the executive session into an open meeting. At that time, I will ask if there's a motion to appoint an applicant to the open board position number 4. If there is a motion, we will take action. All right, thank you for attending. Let's get started. Our first applicant or candidate is Alyssa Bones. Welcome. Please take a seat at the table with a microphone. Okay, we have a total, I think you've already have these, but like we have a total of 9 questions. We're gonna take turns asking them.
Okay.
You have 25 minutes total. There's gonna be a 5-minute warning. Do you want me to keep you like to the 3 minutes or you? All right, cool. And then do you have any questions before we start?
No, I'm
Okay.
excited.
Is your mic on? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll talk
All right.
a little closer.
Perfect. Well, I get question number 1, so I will get us going. Briefly describe your experience, training, and interests, and tell us what makes you an ideal candidate for a Wenatchee School District Board Director.
Well, first, let me thank the board and the superintendent for this opportunity and allow me to introduce myself. My name is Alyssa Bones. I'm the parent of 2 children in the district, and I'm a proud product of public education myself. I was raised in rural northern Nevada, and I'm a graduate of the University of Montana, go Grizz, where I earned a Bachelor of Science in Recreation Management. I spent the early part of my career in state and federal public service, working in wildland fire, incident logistics, and emergency planning, including extensive coordination with a variety of agencies and local governments. I presented regularly to the Montana Governor's Drought Board on fire danger and fire outlooks, and I was often a media contact for fire information, both on the local and the state level in the state of Montana. I also served a short term as an elected member of the Helena, Montana Citizens Council, an advisory board to the city council and mayor until I moved out of city limits. I was there for about a year. After becoming a parent, I transitioned to working from home, first as a small business owner, and now as a freelance writer and a self-published author, which gives my family flexibility and ultimately the availability to pursue this position. My family moved to Wenatchee in 2021 for my husband's job. It was a difficult time. If you think back to 2021, mid-pandemic, we didn't know hardly anyone, but we found community through school, through my husband's job with the U.S. Forest Service, and our kids' many activities that they do. We've fallen in love with Wenatchee, and we're looking forward to making it our permanent home. We've been here 4 years, and we don't have any plans to leave. My experience as a parent with children in the Wenatchee School District has deepened my belief in public education as a public good and a source of community pride. My particular interests include dual language immersion. That also includes meeting kids in their native language for education, STEM education, literacy, I am a writer, and inclusive hands-on education that prepares all students to be future-ready, curious, and confident leaders. I believe I'm an ideal candidate at the heart of it because I care really deeply about our students and want to be part of ensuring every child in this district has the support, opportunities, and belonging that they need to thrive. And I believe I have the professional and personal experience to contribute to the district's goals.
Second question, please tell us 2 specific skills that you possess that will benefit the board.
Certainly. So one skill I bring to the board is my ability to see multiple perspectives and help others find common ground. In my government career, both with the state of Montana DNRC, that's the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, and when I was in public health emergency preparedness at the state level, I was often asked to facilitate conversations and meetings and problem solve collaboratively, even though that wasn't ever part of my formal role. It was just something that I was drawn to and something that I was recognized as being good at. I approached challenges with empathy, curiosity, and a deep desire to understand not just the issue at hand, but the people impacted by it. I believe that's essential in a district as diverse and dynamic as ours is. Another skill I bring is my attention to detail and love of learning. I'm someone who digs into problems from every angle and often notices things others haven't seen yet. I take pride in learning quickly, asking thoughtful questions, and doing the background work necessary to make sound decisions. At the heart of it, though, and I might say this a few times tonight, I believe my most important skill is that I care. I care a lot. I'm committed to public education. I really believe in it. I'm committed to the success of every student and to helping the board navigate complex decisions with clarity and compassion. Also, as someone relatively new to Wenatchee, I think I bring an outside perspective and a strong desire to contribute and make a mark on this community that we now call home.
Thank you. You're doing great. Maria Iniguez here. What do you believe are the roles of the board and the superintendent?
That's definitely something that I believe I would learn a lot about in this role. I won't pretend to know everything about how the board and the superintendent and how our complex funding and everything works in this state and in our community. But my research and observations as a tuned-in parent in the community, this is what I understand. So bear with me. So the role of the school board is to provide responsible governance and oversight that ensures every student in the district has the opportunity to succeed. This includes setting the vision, mission, and strategic goals, engaging the community, creating the conditions for student and staff success, and being ultimately accountable for student outcomes. In practice, I think this means overseeing the district's budget, financial priorities, establishing policy, managing contracts, and hiring and supervising the superintendent. The superintendent is entrusted with the day-to-day administration of the district. Their role is to implement board policies and lead staff in carrying out the district's mission. A key responsibility of the board, I believe, is to maintain an effective collaborative relationship with the superintendent, one built on trust, accountability, and a shared commitment to student achievement. I believe that this approach, what I've observed and what I've learned about how the board and the superintendent work and what their roles are, aligns really closely with my own guiding philosophy in life, which is servant leadership. I believe that leadership means listening first, supporting and amplifying the success of others, and keeping the needs of students, staff, and families at the center of every decision. The board's work, in my mind, is not about individual authority. It's about collective responsibility to serve the community.
Thank you. I'm Julie Norton.
Hi, Julie.
I've got the next one.
Yep.
Describe 2 strengths of the district and 1 challenge you feel the district faces.
Absolutely. And I appreciated this question because it really made me reflect. And it also gave me an opportunity to talk to my neighbors in my district and see what their thoughts are as well. So something that I've seen that I believe one of the Wenatchee School District strengths is how intentionally it communicates its mission, especially through the Big 6 future ready outcomes. I'm consistently impressed at how student work, classroom, and extracurricular activities and achievements are tied back to those shared goals and how you check back in on the report card on those. That kind of clarity helps families understand, families and community members, stakeholders, not just people with kids in the district, understand the why behind district decisions and fosters a sense of unity across our schools. Additionally, Superintendent Kelleher, your budget bites, those are great. The implementation of Parent Square, which is so much easier to use than past products. Good job on that one. And the regular weekly newsletter, the board or the meeting summaries. I get a lot of communication from the district, and I feel like it all is in alignment with getting the mission and the goals of the district out there. Another strength, some people might say this is trite, is the district's diversity and the opportunity that comes from our changing community. Our students, families, teachers, and staff come from many backgrounds. And when we invest in inclusive practices and responsive programming and education, we create stronger, more equitable learning environments. That diversity enriches our schools and prepares students for life in an increasingly interconnected world. As far as challenges, I did hear about some of those from people in my district. So I think what I heard the most is concerns about budget and funding, particularly in light of declining enrollment and uncertainty at the state and federal level. I mean, we keep getting headlines and we're not quite sure what they're going to mean, right? I know I saw at a recent meeting that projection showed a 1.5% decline in enrollment by next school year with an 11% drop projected by 2029. That's going to be a very significant challenge because fewer students means less funding, but we still have the need to support every student. That need remains just as strong. So I've been speaking with my neighbors about what matters most to them. There are lingering concerns over the conditions that led to the closing of Columbia, even with the excitement of knowing that Valley is moving into it. People just want, families and community stakeholders want to feel heard, to be informed, and have the opportunity to be part of the solution. And as a board member, I would be committed to ensuring that budget decisions are made with transparency, strategy, and a strong focus on student and community outcomes.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Alyssa. Corey Callahar, Superintendent. Thanks for being here. The next question is, sometimes your opinions and votes will be at odds with the majority of the board. How will you support these decisions?
So I strongly believe the work of the school board is too important to be driven by personal agendas. The community has entrusted the board to make thoughtful and often difficult decisions that serve the best interest of all students. And they hold the board accountable through regular elections to make sure that they're doing that. As a board member, I would always bring my full self to the table. So that's my lived experience, what I've heard from my neighbors and community, and a deep commitment to equity and student success. But once the board has made a decision, I would, of course, support it, even if I initially disagreed. I believe that, like in a disagreement, I like to approach it with respect and curiosity and collaboration. And additionally, as a lifelong learner, I'm open to changing my mind. I'm not afraid to say I've listened, I've learned, and now I think differently or I know better. I think that our strength comes from working together toward a shared vision. And as individuals representing the citizens of Wenatchee, the board has to work together to serve the community.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Being a board member is a time-consuming commitment of service. Do you feel you were able to meet the demands of this role? Do you have and wish to disclose any potential conflicts of interest that would be relevant to performing school director duties and functions?
I definitely believe I can meet the demands of the role. So I'm self-employed. I work from home with a flexible schedule that allows me to structure my time around what matters most. One big thing in my family is that my husband travels a lot. So it is me and the kids a lot of the time, but my kids are getting older. They're much more capable of being with a babysitter, which is where they are right now. Be good. What keeps me busiest, frankly, in my life is my kids. That's what we've structured our family has decided is the most important thing for me to do right now. And I can't think of anything more important for my kids than this role, because what helps my kids helps all kids. And I would like to be a part of that. As for potential conflicts of interest, I don't believe I have any. For the sake of full transparency, no one in my family works for or does business with the district. I have 2 children enrolled in Wenatchee schools. One currently attends a non-neighborhood school through a choice placement, and I've requested choice placement for my rising kindergartner as well. But I would neither expect nor accept any special consideration in that process because of board service. I'm a member of the Lewis and Clark Elementary PTSA, but I do not hold a leadership role and I would not seek one. And just as an aside, I have familiarized myself with the filing requirements of elected officials through the PDC, and I would always aim to be as transparent as possible if appointed.
Thank you. Explain how you have grown and nurtured collaborative partnerships within the community.
I really love this question, and it's a harder one for me to answer because we moved here mid-pandemic, small children. You know, it's been a little difficult sometimes as the person that's always there with my kids to get involved, but I have found opportunities to do that. So I think that for me, this goes back to the servant leadership, and the core tenets of that are competence, courage, candor, and commitment. That's something that I bring to any sort of leadership position and when I'm working with the community. An example of a time that I did build collaborative partnerships in the community when I worked in Helena, Montana. I was the assistant center manager at the Wildland Fire Dispatch Center there. We were an interagency state and federal office. And in that community, it's a very interesting, basically every fire response, you're also going to have local fire response. And so you get a very complex interagency environment. And I found out that the fire chiefs for the local departments got together for lunch at Perkins every Friday. So I started to go to lunch at Perkins every Friday. It wasn't something I had to do, that my boss said, hey, go to these meetings. But going to them, I found that I just showed up, I listened, I got to know people, and we started to see opportunities where I could help them with information that maybe it was harder for them to get at their level. And they were able to get me lots of information too. And when fire season hit and things got difficult, that trust definitely paid off. We had better coordination, and ultimately that increased safety for everyone involved. So that experience showed me that collaboration doesn't happen overnight. It's built over time with consistency and care. And it's something that I'm still doing here. But since moving to Wenatchee, I have focused on, besides being a parent, being a reliable, present community member, being tuned into what's going on. I volunteer with Packing Friendship. I deliver meals to students at Pinnacles Prep every week. And I'm a member of the PTSA at Lewis and Clark Elementary. So I look forward to continuing to build more relationships and partnerships in the community, whether I get this appointment or not.
Next question. The Wenatchee School District is proud of its diverse student population. Please describe your experience with diverse populations in the Wenatchee Valley.
I really appreciate this question. When we moved here, we bought a house sight unseen. That was the market at the time, right? And when we moved in, the neighborhood we didn't know what the neighborhood was, right? We had no way of knowing. So we live in a very diverse neighborhood in South Wenatchee, and we are so happy. We love it. We're incredibly fortunate to have amazing neighbors and to really feel a part of that community there. When we moved, we chose to enroll our oldest at Lewis and Clark Elementary because he was coming from a dual language program, and we wanted to put him in a dual language program. We really believe in the power of bilingualism, the multicultural understanding that comes with it, and we support programs that reflect and celebrate that diversity in our community. I'll add that everyone in our household is a Spanish language learner, myself included. I'm on a 300+ day Duolingo streak, but I still have a lot to learn. Please bear with me. Todavía tengo mucho que aprender. So please don't test me on that. As a family, we show up for causes and celebrations that reflect our values. So that includes opportunities that support LGBTQIA students and families. We believe that every child deserves to feel safe, seen, and welcome in their school and in their community. As a parent, my kids have been involved with the Birth to Age 3 program, ECAP, and we've been lucky to work with the most amazing district special education specialists, speech pathologists, and occupational therapists. I have a great appreciation for the work the district does to include students of all abilities and firsthand knowledge of how hard they work when they show up for those IEP meetings. And we have so much to talk about and so much success to celebrate because they're doing such wonderful work. Getting to the closing here. I think that one of the most beautiful things about public schools is that they serve everyone. It doesn't matter who you voted for or if you voted. There's so much strength in embracing that and celebrating that. In school, students are exposed to different worldviews, languages, and lived experiences. And that no matter what, families come together in gymnasiums and on sports fields for holiday programs and concerts and championship games and graduations and other shared moments of celebration. And that sense of community across differences is one of the things I value most about the district. And it's one of the reasons I would be honored to serve on the board.
Last question, and it's actually for us. Do you have any questions for the board?
Well, of course, lifelong learner here. I always have a question. What are some of the most effective ways that you as board members find to engage with the community and with your districts?
I'll start. I have found spending some time in the buildings to get to know the individual talk to the principals, understanding what their challenges are, what their kind of successes are, is helps us drive the conversations we're having at the board level. So it allows you to kind of have a sense of kind of boots on the ground, what's happening. So that would be my advice.
Great.
For me, it's, I do have a full-time day job. So I'm not as flexible as attending daytime school events. So as a board member, we do get invitations to attend weekend events, sporting events, competitions. And so I make every effort to engage out in the community, and it's fun. Even, I have a child, and it doesn't involve him. I take him with me, and it's just a great experience. In regards to the community, I'm part of a lot of organizations. I attend a lot of events, and it just creates that partnership.
Great.
Yes, similar. I think having kids already gets you a lot of exposure out there anyway. You're going to various events through the school, through other buildings in the district. So just learning some of the families and whatnot through those events, I make myself accessible. I've got my private cell phone given to everybody, whether they like it or not, just to return calls. We direct them to our board emails and whatnot, just to try and keep communication open, but really just being out and involved. Being accessible is really what I've done to engage with my community, and that seems to work. Great.
And I'd say the same thing. It's getting out there, but very much as an ordinary person at the bottom of the pile, not as a board member so much. And you can be an encourager, but you want to be very careful that you are absorbing and encouraging and not presenting any kind of power.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I have tons of other questions, but I know that we're about at time. So I just want to thank the board and the superintendent again for this opportunity, and also to thank my community for the support I've received as I made the desire for this appointment clear. I know you're out there watching. Thank you. I know this will be a tough decision because you selected great candidates, and I appreciate the opportunity to apply.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. I'll let you go into the thing. I was like, we still have time on the clock. We're all right. All right. Our next candidate is Carrie Gavin. Welcome. Okay. Oh, we're gonna wait a second. Come on up. Yeah, you heard your name, and you're like, I'll go in now. Okay, I'll say it again for now that you're here. Our next candidate is Carrie Gavin. Welcome. You've already taken the seat, so ahead of the game. We have a total of 9 questions, and each of us will take turns asking these questions. You'll have 25 minutes total to answer all the questions, and Ms. White will help keep a timer, which will alert you when there's 5 minutes remaining.
Okay.
Do you have any questions before we get going?
No.
Okay,
Okay.
great. All right, so I'm on question number 1. Briefly describe your experience, training, and interests, and tell us what makes you an ideal candidate for a Wenatchee School District Board Director.
I would say that I've served on several boards and advisory committees in our community. At the Unitarian Fellowship, I was a board member and their treasurer for 3 years. I was on the City of Wenatchee Diversity Council Advisory Board, and I was their co-chair. I was a member of the PTO and served as secretary and vice president. And then at the United Way, I chaired the Emergency Food and Shelter Program. I was also the executive director at the Brave Warrior Project for a year. So I kind of get the being on the board side and then being on the administrative staff side of that and how those work together. I feel that in my work, I work at Developmental Disabilities Administration, and I was at the Chelan Douglas DD office for 8 years before that. So in that work, you become a good advocate find resources, work with lots of families, and all the other agencies that help and support families. And a lot of those pieces of those jobs is the quality assurance, performance measurements, data collection, and kind of compiling all that work and making it, function in the real world. I would say some of the trainings that I've got to do, which I think is pretty cool. I got to do the Chamber of Commerce community leadership training that they hold. I've been to many trainings on transition, job development when it comes to special education and folks with developmental disabilities, trainings on low tech and high tech devices for folks who don't use verbal language to communicate. Leading a meaningful life with the Developmental Disability Council. I've taken trainings that the Diversity Council had, communication across borders, barriers, sorry, that was like Donna Beagle's training. And then I was also able to do some equity and inclusion training at the National Equity Project. They came here, and then also in Portland, Oregon. And I guess my interests are, I have 2 adult children that belong to Wenatchee School District. Both of my kids went to Mission View. And then my partner has younger children, kindergarten and 4th grade, and they're at Kashmir right now. I don't know. I care about the school, and I care about the kids, and I care about the community, and I have youth and children on my caseload as well at the state.
Thank you. Welcome. I'm Martin Barron. Question number 2. Please tell us 2 specific skills that you possess that will benefit the sport.
I would say that one is I've been a part of strategic planning. done that at the county office. I've done it at the Unitarian Fellowship. I'm doing it now at Sunny Slope. I feel like I'm a really good, sorry, I'm nervous. These are just supposed to be like notes, and I'm just reading off my thing now. Sorry. Okay. So I feel like I possess the skills to like be on a board, obviously. But I think some other things is like really listening to, I feel like a lot of people just want to be heard. Especially when they have challenges, or they don't know how to navigate a system, or they're just having a really rough day. And I find that a lot in my work. And sometimes I don't solve a problem when families call me, but they feel better because they were heard. And I feel like, making sure, being very careful about what I say that I can do for them, or what I have to ask, or what I can find, or, so that we're working together, which builds that trust. And so then they know that, that I'm going to follow through and do what I say. I think that's really important. I think, as part, and to go along that with the listening, I think it's a skill when I have to do those assessments. I have people that are, and it's typically parents that are caregivers to their children and their adult children that still live at home. And you have to ask like 97 questions just in the first half of these assessments. What skills and supports do you need to be successful in all these different areas in their life? And what you find sometimes is that's very difficult to talk about. And so you want to make sure you're very empathetic, and that, you look at the person as a person, what is actually important to them, not just what is important for them. And also sometimes that just becomes a part of your day, your daily life, taking care of these folks. And so to kind of like pull out, like, what actually are you doing, so I can score it in a way so you can get the support that you need from the state, because you're doing such a great job. If they didn't have those supports from you, and even the school is included in those assessments, what you provide here for those folks. And it makes a big difference. So is that too?
Thank you. Hi, Maria Ñiguez. What do you believe are the roles of the board and the superintendent?
I would say they're kind of the same in a lot of ways, but how you carry that out is a little bit different. I would say I think boards should be the wind in the sails, whatever board you serve on. They develop policy. They develop budgets and they approve those budgets. They're out in the community, they represent the community. They, advise the superintendent of what, the direction to carry out those things for the school. And then the strategic planning, but then at the same time, the superintendent does the day-to-day structure, functions, hires the staff, but again, like follows the policies and implements those procedures, is part of the strategic planning, is the representative for the community of the school. They all go hand in hand, but a good board should have really good policies in place that are well enough what what your expectations are, what you can do and what you cannot do, and that you let that be the driving, guidance. So the superintendent and the staff can do their jobs and carry that out because they have the skill set to do it. So I think they're both, kind of one and the same, but they do have their own definite, separate lanes and how they get to that, single goal.
I'm Julie Norton. Got the next one. Describe 2 strengths of the district and 1 challenge you feel the district faces.
I would say a strength of the district is like the arts, the theater, the band, the music. I've been a part of that with my kids. I've been a part of it through the community. I think that you do a wonderful job with that, like top notch for sure. I would say another strength that I find, I think it's great that you have West Side High School for all different needs of, students and who's there. And I also think the tech center kind of goes hand in hand with that. And I also know that the tech center, I have people on my caseload that utilize the tech center, which I think before wasn't always the case. And that just makes a world of difference in their lives. So like the school district to be able to identify and know that there are different ways of learning and students have different needs and they're not all gonna, be able to do the same thing, and to give them different alternatives so that they can thrive and be a good student. And and I think the challenge, I mean, for me, the most thing that I hear about and, would be, special education is a challenge. I hear a lot about funding. I think that's always what I hear about special education, why certain things can't be attained or achieved is funding. And I'm sure that is true. But it would be really great to like kind of find those things that you could do if you can't get that funding. I think you need like consistent curriculum. And I think it needs to be evidence-based. And I think it needs to start at the elementary level. And I think the school district could be like a pillar of inclusion. I know a lot of special education students. I mean, I know there's health and safety, but I just think that there's a really great opportunity that when you're integrated in the school much more, then it just becomes that's how life should be. And then when they transition out into adulthood, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just think schools have a lot of power and influence, and I think that would be a really great way to utilize that to help those folks.
Excellent. Thanks, Carrie. Corey Callahar, Superintendent. 5th question. Sometimes your opinions and votes will be at odds with the majority of the board. How will you support these decisions?
Well, I think what is important as a board operates as a unit. There's nothing good ever comes out of like, I can't find the words, like throwing someone under the bus, or, if you wanted something to go a certain way and it didn't, then you need to, the best way to explain that to folks is like, well, this is how the board functions, right? And we, I guess for me, I would look at like, does it match the values of the board? Does it match the strategic plan? Strategic plan, that should be like the guiding principle. So anytime a board is making a decision, the first thing they should go to is what they wrote themselves. And does this align with everything? Because then where is maybe the disagreement going to come from, and how can we work with that? But I do think it's important to if you need to keep, you know, readdressing things as needed. I feel like documents should be a living, breathing kind of identity of their own, and they should always be open for change, especially as cultures change and times change, and to make it work for our community as well. So. And then, and if you are in disagreement in some areas, I mean, everyone brings something to the table, their own set of expertise, their own set of like what you care about, and it's an opportunity to learn from the other person. There's a lot of things that are really nuanced, you know, so. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Great, thanks. All right, I'm Tucker Jackson. I never introduced myself at the beginning. Everyone showed me up. Being a board member is a time-consuming commitment of service. Do you feel you will be able to meet the demands of this role? Do you have and wish to disclose any potential conflicts of interest that would be relevant to performing school director duties and functions?
I believe that I can fulfill the role and the time commitments. I work 4/10s, and I have the ability to like flex some time or do what I need to do to make sure I can be here when I need to be here. And I think the only conflict of interest that I could think of was as I mentioned, I do have some children and youth that are on my caseload that go to Wenatchee School District. So, and I guess I would have to talk to DSHS about that as well. And maybe it's just a simple, you know, just make sure it doesn't become a conflict, I guess, or maybe we just like, you know, transfer those kids off my caseload and I would take some other ones.
Explain how you have grown and nurtured collaborative partnerships within the community.
I feel like I've done a few, but I think, so when I was at the county, we used to have a parent to parent, which is kind of falls under the ARC of Washington. They're like a peer group that supports other parents with kids that have disabilities or special needs. We hadn't had one in Chelan Douglas County it had been quite a while, a few years. And the North Central Early Learning Collaborative with the Coalition of Children and Families, you know, kind of, and with other partners drew this data, and they wanted to bring that program back. So when I was at the county office, I worked with Janelle Bursch from the ESD. We brought in the United Way, the Early Learning Committee, parents and other stakeholders, and we kind of created this advisory board, and we blended funding and got the program going again. And then it was housed under the county. And then eventually that led to leaving. I met Erica Moshe from the Brave Warrior Project. So then she kind of became a part of it. And then we were able to move. It was only supposed to be at the county temporary. Then we were able to move the program under Brave Warrior Project. So they were getting the funding, and then they kind of expanded their program. And then from there, we put together like an autism conference. And since Parent to Parent was part of the Early Learning Collaborative, and they kind of wanted to make that a focus, because a lot of folks don't think about families with special needs when they're thinking about early learning. They're thinking about being kindergarten ready and childcare, but they often don't think about the population that I typically serve. So we were able to take them to Olympia for Advocacy Day a few times, and that was pretty cool. And then we had an autism conference, and then that kind of grew into, you know, the Brave Warrior Project is their own like nonprofit now. I used to go to the Gates Foundation a few times a year at the United Way. And from that, we met with Group Health Foundation, and we were able to write grants specifically regarding like equity. And we were able to get a big one from them and funded Brave Warriors. So I think it was just like, it started out with this thing and then kind of grew into another thing, just kind of being a part of all those pieces.
That's my question. The Wenatchee School District is proud of its diverse student population. Please describe your experience with diverse populations in the Wenatchee Valley.
Well, I work with the developmental disability population. I'm a work incentive benefits planner, so I've worked with other folks with different kinds of disabilities, helping them with their social security. You know, I was part of the mission, like I've stated with the PTO, my kids went to Mission View. My daughter was in the dual language program from first grade through till the end of her elementary, 5th grade. I live in South Wenatchee. I take the Link bus. Oh, and I'm part of the queer community, so.
Last question, and it's for us. Do you have any questions for the board?
Yeah, I had a couple. Let me put my notebook in front of me again. One, just two. I probably have more, but this was two. And going back to the opinions and votes not always meeting the majority of the board, I was wondering if you could give me an example when that has happened, like what kind of topic that is around and how did you manage that? How do you support it?
I've only been on the board for one disagreement and it was about the thing that we came back on. So I'll let one of my more senior board members answer this one.
I'll answer with this board. This board has been one where I think we have worked with our differences to reach something that normally has consensus. It's not everybody's first choice. We have had 1-3-2 vote. I can't remember what it was.
The graduation requirements.
Was the graduation requirement? Okay. In prior boards, you had much more division and votes and differences. But I think one of the strengths of a good board is that you try to get something that can work and work together.
I'll use a previous board example. And it was during a very challenging time, was COVID. The last vote we had, whether we were ready to reopen our schools. It was a 2-3 vote. I was in the minority and, you know, it was a very challenging time. But you accept the decision, you don't challenge it, nor question your colleagues. We all have the best interest, and how do you adjust your thoughts with what's in front of you, which was to reopen our schools, and then you support our students, no hurt feelings, because obviously when you have conflict, it's a little more challenging to do work. But yeah, I mean, you might not like it, but again, everybody has the best interest of students at the forefront, and you just deal.
Yeah, and I'll just add that the one that I recall was actually a 2-part vote, because one was approving the contractor and the next one was approving the contract. And I ended up being, I think, maybe the only no vote in approving the contractor. But my role as the board is to support what the board does. And so when we came to approving their contract, I was able to unanimously help approve the contract, because this was the direction that the board had signaled they were going to go. And so my job then is to support that.
Thank you. And I guess my second question is your value statement of the building the foundation of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I know this is more of a delicate topic, but I think it's important. I was wondering if you've noticed or observed any impacts at the district level or the school level with the current administration and with the things that are going on with diversity and equity inclusion, and kind of what's going to happen if that gets pushed, or have we thought about that yet?
I can start. I can't speak in regards to the funding piece of it. But I can tell you, as somebody that has advocated for this type of work my whole professional career, I commend the district for the stance that they have taken. I don't know if you've tuned into board meetings, but I have been pretty open about the direction the district is moving, the initiative of supporting our students, our community, whether they're, what doesn't matter, their demographic, their race, legal status, et cetera. So, you know, the management piece, that's up to the superintendent in regards to at the building level. But I could tell from the top up, I have been very pleased as how it's has been handled and the approach that the district has taken.
Thank you.
I'll say it's certainly one of the things on our mind at all times, and especially as things kind of change. We're constantly trying to communicate to families that these are safe spaces. Families are welcome at our events and things like that. We are aware that things could change. And so we know our admin is working behind the scenes if then scenarios in terms of what happens to funding and programs and things like that. So it's something we're constantly aware of. We're hoping that the impacts are not felt because we're doing so much of the hard work, at least on the day-to-day student level, because we are doing so much work to reassure our families and make them safe, welcoming spaces for everybody. But yeah, it's something that's forefront and that we are constantly aware of and working to avoid any issues.
I think that working that on the basis that all people matter, all people should be safe, law and constitution should be supported. And then as an individual board member, diversity is a strength. We need to nurture all our talents. In terms of impact from outside, be prepared, be watchful, and that's where we are.
And I'll agree with my colleagues. I would just add that like, we aren't making laws, but we're following the laws. And so when we're coming into conflict with certain opinions in the district, we're following the law first. And that is our role as a board member, is to support our district within the state, mostly state laws and federal laws. So it's a little up in the air, but we aren't making those calls. So, and respecting that, I think, is important.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Our next candidate is McLean Johnson. Hey, welcome. You get to take a seat. No, you guys, you're just sitting. Come on, you're fine. They had to walk in and out. All right, we have a total of 9 questions, and each of us will take turns asking those questions. You'll have 25 minutes total. There's a little running shot clock over there. And we'll alert you when 5 minutes are remaining. Do you have any questions before we get started?
No questions.
Okay. Wait, you don't want us to ask you any questions? No. All right. I am Tucker Jackson. I am the first question. Briefly describe your experience, training, and interests, and tell us what makes you an ideal candidate for Wenatchee School District Board Director.
Oh, good one. Well, I suppose I would start at the beginning. I'm a fish biologist, which gives me the privilege of having a wonderful job title. People hear that and they're like, oh my gosh, what does that mean? But really what I do is I work at the intersection of people, land, and water and fish. So a lot of times what that does is it brings stakeholders of various kinds, agricultural folks, natural resource folks, folks that are looking to develop economics, things like that. And it brings people together to discuss and how to manage a finite resource in water. So that can lead to a lot of interesting people to meet and a lot of good discussion. That's where I've been at for the last few years in my career. That's a little bit about what I do. As far as training, I'm trained as a scientist. I had the good fortune to go to college. That was the pathway for me. And so training started there. I went to the University of Montana and subsequently South Dakota State. And along the way, being trained as a scientist, there's a lot to learn about the biological world, but really it's learning about people and how to connect with them and how to talk about things and share information. So along the way, you know, communication is a huge part of science. And so there's a lot of training that goes with that. And I've always tried to hang on to that, you know, be a good communicator and learn more than I can. You know, I've got a long list of trainings that I've probably done, but at the end of the day, it's about just being able to talk with people like yourselves and share that. And I would say that's the training that I would like to highlight. As far as interests go, I would say, you know, along my journey in my career and growing up, I grew up in rural Montana and I moved to Wenatchee about 12 years ago. Lived in District 4 the whole time. But I often remember that there was many people along that way that helped me get to where I am now, whether that be a teacher or a coach or a formal mentor or just a good neighbor. So I'm interested in being that person for my community. That's what I try to do. Been doing my best at it, and hopefully I can continue to do more. So I think that's a lot of the reason why I think I could do good work here on the board. I'm up for that challenge. I think, you know, we all want to get to a place in our lives where we can be intentional about what we do. And I choose to be here and I want to be here. And so I think that that's a good prerequisite. Sound all right? Okay.
I'm Martin Barron. The second question for you. Please tell us 2 specific skills that you possess that will benefit this board.
Ooh, good question. Thank you. Well, having served on a few boards, both professionally and in the community, I would say that commitment is probably number one. And there's a lot of levels to commitment. When I think of commitment, it's not just being reliable, it's also being consistent, being open and honest and fair, right? Patience, you know, is a good part of commitment, and being a good listener and being thorough. So I would say commitment for number one. Number two, I would say communication. I enjoy talking with people and connecting and listening, both written and verbally. I'm a big believer in saying what you mean concisely and plainly so that everybody can understand what you're saying, right? That's hard to do in science because we have a lot of big words, right? I mean, like, there's a lot of good ones. Concomitant is one that I've seen a lot in scientific literature, and it just seems like at the same time. Why don't you just say at the same time instead of concomitant, because it'll throw you for a loop, right? So yeah, communication, distilled as well. It doesn't need to be long, but it needs to be presentable. And so yeah, communication for number two.
Thank you. Maria Iniguez here. Next question. What do you believe are the roles of the board and the superintendent?
Great question. Well, I would start with the board, I would say, is to community engagement. And in my mind, that means being a champion for our district. We got a lot going on, a lot of good things. And I think that's an important role. I would take that very seriously. But probably establishing expectations for learning, you know, that's not an easy thing to do. And to establish accountability for those expectations for learning. And that would extend to our wonderful staff here in the district. You know, there's over 800 of them. You know, do they have the tools that they need? Do they have the, you know, the resources that they need to be accessible and accountable as well? So I would say that's the role of the board in my mind.
Okay, I'm Julie Norton. Ready for the next question. Describe two strengths of the district and one challenge you feel the district faces.
Julie, great question. Can I hop back to the previous question really quick? I missed a point on that. I missed the superintendent part, sorry. And of course, I'd like to add one more, one more to the board. Governance, all right? Governance is important. You know, we have policy, procedure, and ways that we communicate information, and that needs to be a key part of the board. As far as the superintendent goes, you know, I think that vision and leadership is an important point for the superintendent. And I would also say logistics and operations, hiring, firing, direction. That's a heck of a job you got there, Corey. So yeah, so that's the superintendent portion of that. So Julie, could I please have that question again that you asked?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Describe two strengths of the district and one challenge you feel the district is facing.
Oh man, strengths. Just two? That's all I get? Oh man, okay, because there's a lot more. I think that a strength of the district would be future thinking, whether that's our strategic plan, whether that's staying ahead of emerging issues. Declining enrollment comes to mind, absenteeism comes to mind. You can't manage something that you don't understand or that you don't have data for or that you're not thinking about already. So I think that the board does a good job with that. For number two, for strength, I would think highlighting our successes. The weekly newsletter that I get that highlights successes of students, actions that are relevant to the development of our district, staff winning awards. I love to read about that. I think it's important. And for a challenge, there's a lot coming at us right now on a lot of levels, right? And that's always going to be that way. But I would say the one that stands out to me right now would be the rapid pace of changing policy and law from different levels of government that influence us in our district. And I think that would be a primary challenge in the near term.
Right, thank you. Corey
Yeah.
Kalahar, Superintendent. Thanks for being with us today. Fifth question is, sometimes your opinions and votes will be at odds with the majority of the board. How will you support these decisions?
That's a good question. Careful consideration. You know, I'm a logical thinker as a scientist, and deduction comes naturally to me, right? So I would hang on to that. I think being respectful of other people's opinions. I would also say that it's the board's responsibility to explain their decisions succinctly, that folks can understand. Disagreement can be a healthy part of the decision-making process and probably should be. It doesn't have to be divisive. It can be a healthy outcome, and that's good. I actually get a little worried when everybody agrees about one thing. That seems kind of odd, doesn't it? So that's how I would approach that.
All right, we're back to me. Being a board member is a time-consuming commitment of service. Do you feel you would be able to meet the demands of this role? Do you have and wish to disclose any potential conflicts of interest that would be relevant to performing school director duties and functions?
Yes, I will be able to meet the demands. And no, I do not have any conflicts.
Next question, explain how you've grown and nurtured collaborative partnerships within the community.
Okay, good question. This is my favorite one. All right, so far. Let's see. Well, number one, this is a good one. Couple years ago, North Central Education District had some funding, and we got a group of natural resource specialists together, and we had a spring break outdoor science camp for kids in our district, but also surrounding districts, and all volunteer based. And this camp had been going on for a few years by the time that I joined on board, but being able to engage with volunteers, mostly in my field, but also a lot of other folks, the camp owners up at Lake Wenatchee, community members nearby. One of the things that I really liked in the planning process of this camp was logistics, right? So there was a lot of students that maybe couldn't get to the lake for whatever reason, parents working, you know, no transportation and how to do that. We were able to organize that and get as many kids to the camps as we could. And it was very well attended. But spring up at Lake Wenatchee is a little touch and go. So the weather was the weather was pretty good. We had a little snow, but mostly sunshine, and it was bunkhouse camping, cafeteria food kind of thing, and a log cabin. And then there was outdoor science lessons most of the day. So I got to teach a lot of those lessons. I got to meet kids from, Rock Island, Malaga, Pateros, and a lot of kids from our district, both Eastmont and here. And I think it was a good success overall. And then on the last day, we were able to get a lot of the parents up to the camp as well, talk about some of the things that we learned. My role up there was cool. I got to go outdoors and do global positioning system location in the forest with these kids. And yeah, rewarding experience. And so that was, I don't know, that was a pretty good one. I was trying to tell you another one. Science on Tap. I did that last year. So I work in a highly regulatory world where often obtaining permits or knowing the law or getting work done out on a river can be complicated for a lot of people, whether it's a landowner or whether it's a group that's looking to do some good for fish, or whether it's an irrigator looking to improve their pumps for their orchards or anything like that. And so I connected with the Icicle group up in Leavenworth, and we had a Science on Tap here in Wenatchee, and it was a place where anybody could come, whether it was a casual learner, a landowner, natural resource professional type, or just interested public could come down, and we just had a presentation to talk about the varying levels of permit, what's necessary if you want to do something in the aquatic environment in our valley. And it was a good time. I think I managed to make regulations not boring, which is that was a big win for me. So yeah, so that was one. I got to give you one more. Oh yeah, I'm a coach. So, the successful teams that I've been on, they've all been successful to varying degrees, but the best teams have just this synergy between the board that runs the league, the coaches, the parents, the players. It's like a system that works together, right? So if you've got an engaged parent of a coach or of a player, if you got a coach that's good at planning, if the coach surrounds himself with people who know more, if you reach out in that way to make a community of people that interact, the product that you see on the sports field is exponentially better. And so I really believe in that process. And I enjoy being a coach. You guys actually stole me from practice tonight, so you're gonna have to answer my daughter. So yeah. So yeah, I think those are the three: the science camp, the Science on Tap, and just being a coach, So.
Thank you. The Wenatchee School District is proud of its diverse student population. Please describe your experiences working with diverse populations in the Wenatchee Valley.
Okay. You'll probably write a couple books on that topic, right? But I don't I don't need to look further for experience with diversity than my own district. You know, we have 11 precincts and they're all unique. District 4 is very vibrant and busy, and it's just got people from all walks of life. I've talked to a lot of people, and I really enjoy listening to my community members in my district. I was just thinking about how I met somebody recently who was a traveling nurse working for the hospital system. You know, it's just a short termer here in Wenatchee, but is living in our district and working nights at the hospital. Some of the more meaningful interactions I've had have been, we have tribal members living in my district. And if you listen and if you're patient and you can build trust with those people, they'll tell you their stories. And I think listening to me is the most important thing to diversity. You know, it's tribal members telling me about their ancestors and how they're connected to the land and how salmon are important to their people, you know, and for somebody to share that with you is very meaningful. This last couple of years on Day of Dead, I've had friends that share the memories of their loved ones with me. And that's very important and moving to me. And then, you know, we got apple blossom coming up, right? There's third or fourth generation Wenatchee folks that have been here a long time, been working orchards, been involved in the parade for 70 years. You know, it's incredible. So, yeah, so diversity to me is my district, right? So, and I enjoy being a part of it, and I'm a listener for that, and I'll never stop listening for that, you know.
Thank you. Last question. Do you have any questions for the board?
Sure. Yeah, I got one, but it's for each of you. And even the superintendent too, if you'd like. I have some ideas about things that I could help with as being a member of the board right away. And I want that to be positive and a good experience. But I was curious what each of you thought would be something as a board member getting appointed would be something immediately that they could hop in and help with. Does anybody want to go? Dr. Barron, do you want to go first?
I normally answer in generalities rather than specifics. So that's, but I think I would pause, look around, see what's happening. If I had something that I was interested, then I would discuss it with the superintendent. I wouldn't necessarily leap in on one thing. I would look at the playing field. But I don't have a specific, because like you said, there are 20 different programs that you go for, and I could list 10 that I'm interested in.
Okay.
And I would say, because of the open public meeting, we can't have a lot of communication with each other outside of this room. And so, you know, using the superintendent as a, hey, this is what I'm interested in. How are we handling that now? Or how can we create, you know, a future opportunity in whatever you're interested in? I think that really is, certainly when I was getting my bearings, Corey was a great resource to understand what we're doing, understand where we're going, and then understanding how to get involved and then, you know, make that part of the board process.
Okay. I guess, and what I'm seeing is a vacancy for District 4 here, and I guess I'm more interested in like the issues than the process, you know. I was hoping for some more answers about specific things that we need to get to work on, you know.
I could give you a more of a straight answer.
Okay.
Facilities. We have a very high need to pass a bond. Wenatchee High School has been on ballot for, you know, the last bond, and it failed. Miranda, who used to hold the seat for District 4, was on the facilities committee, right? Yeah, with Tucker. So we just rock right in there. There's a high need and there's an opening.
And I do appreciate your answers, by the way. I'm sorry if I wasn't more clear. Okay, thank you, Maria. Yeah.
I think the interesting thing about this board is we all have something that's unique to us that we're especially interested in and maybe more relevant to one of our districts than others. But I think if I'm looking at the biggest needs of the district, I think it's facilities that we're really trying to strategize. How do we collectively improve facilities, knowing the legislative climate we're in, the taxpayer climate we're in? How do we get our facilities improved? The other things we're trying to address is how do we bring up our student learning? How do we bridge achievement gaps? And then one of the other, I think if I were to do like a top three is, oh, and I just lost it. Achievement gaps. Oh, and how do we restructure our district addressing budget and enrollment? What are the strategies there to either attract enrollment to help fund some of our other programs? Or if we can't attract enrollment, how do we address our facilities in the wake of declining enrollment? What do we do with our extra facilities and whatnot? So I think those are kind of the three, if I'd say, biggest things that we seem to regularly be working on and talking about.
Very
that would be-
helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Where
Yeah.
to start?
Okay.
Awesome, and thanks for the invitation to answer as well. Appreciate the question. I think first and foremost, the board and me as superintendent, we're looking for. Okay, wow, I was like, hold on. We're looking for collaborative partners and thought partners in a whole host of challenges that we're looking into. Another immediate thing that you might be involved in is with Miranda leaving the board, we also have a legislative representative opening on the board as well. So that might be something that you would jump into. Miranda jumped in her first year and both feet, yes, and ended up with a host of responsibilities and being a district representative from Wenatchee. So that was really great. But the other thing I think time consuming, but well worth the time is meeting with building leaders and department leaders in the district and just gaining a deeper understanding for kind of the inner workings and the challenges that each of those leaders have. Each building and department and site has its own unique challenges and opportunities and rewards. And so it's really cool to hear from our leaders what it is that they're working on individually. And then, as Julie mentioned, just breaking down barriers and how we address the achievement gap and helping to hold the district accountable to that strategic plan and making sure that we're doing best by our students. So appreciate your interest and thank you for being here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
totally.
All right. Our next candidate is Mark Belton. Welcome. You already have your seat, but I'll give you the rest of the nitty gritty. We'll have a total of 9 questions and each of us will be asking them. We'll have 25 minutes total and there's going to be a shot clock timer going on over there and there'll be a notification at 5 minutes left. Do you have any questions for us before you get started?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, great. All right. My name is Tucker Jackson and I have question number 1. So briefly describe your experience, training, and interests and tell us what makes you an ideal candidate for Wenatchee School District Board Director.
Sure. So I have over a decade of public administration working at Chelan County PUD. That includes supervising a team, working as a team, governance, budgeting, and strategic planning. So a lot of that ties directly to what I see here at the school district. Also, I have some background in school administration. I worked for both Eastmont School District and Shoreline School District. With that, I have a really strong commitment to the youth programs and the arts. So I'm sure you guys saw through my resume that I'm also a board member for Music Theater of Wenatchee. I have co-produced productions for the high school, both their own and the all-district musical for a number of years. My kids are in band and we've done sports, and all of those are really important to me. Additionally, I do have two kids that are in the school district, so the both in middle school and high school right now. I'm a longtime Valley resident, so our family dates back to the 1900s from here. So born and raised, even though I worked in Shoreline, I still lived here and commuted back and forth. So I am officially the first, though, to move to Wenatchee. So I will say I graduated from Eastmont, and my kids were the first to be purple and gold. It's very divisive in my family. There's been a huge impact in my life from former teachers, from elementary up through high school. And I know how important that is. And I see how valuable those interactions can be for our youth. And that's really what encouraged me to want to put my name in the ring for this. And I'm really committed to seeing the Wenatchee School District be the premier educational institution here in the Valley.
I'm Martin Barron, and I have a second question for you. Please tell us two specific skills that you possess that will benefit this board.
Sure. Some of it I kind of already touched on. So strategic budgeting and oversight. I have years of managing public sector funds and contracts. That's what I do for a living, is read the fine print and try to understand intent among two different parties and come to a reasonable conclusion. Also, community collaboration. So I have a proven ability to build partnerships, both with nonprofits and schools and other civic groups. And the big parts of that for me are listening, advocating, and supporting.
Sorry about that, just writing. Maria Ñiguez. What do you believe are the roles of the board and the superintendent?
It's a great question. So the board really is setting vision, policy, and accountability measures, while the superintendent is the one who's executing that, providing the day-to-day direction, managing operations. And it's really a partnership. And that success is going to come from trust, clarity, clear boundaries between the two, and working for an entity that's governed by a board. I do understand how critical both parts are and how critical it is to work together, make sure that's a unified front and that the communication coming out is the same on both ends.
Thank you. I'm Julie Norton. Describe two strengths of the district and one challenge you feel the district faces.
Sure. I think the number one strength that I've seen is the diversity of the student body and the strong equity values that go along with that. Myself, I went to Rock Island Elementary. I worked at Rock Island Elementary up through high school in Eastmont, and now coming here. It's great to see that those equity values really put to work day to day. I see those in the halls as I'm there, helping with theater things. The posters that are at the high school, the clubs that have started are amazing, engaging our kids on multiple levels. Secondly is, I think, the support for variety of enrichment, arts, athletics, and extracurricular programs are boosting confidence, boosting engagement, creating connection between students and staff. And I think that's been great. I've seen my kids' teachers show up at things that they don't have to be at. And I've seen, a smile on my son's face when they see their teacher there. It's almost better than seeing your parent in the audience when the teacher shows up. So the challenge, I think while aging facilities is a challenge, I would focus really on the opportunity to continue and building public trust and engagement after recent hardships that every district is going to encounter from time to time.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mhm.
Corey Callahar, Superintendent, thanks for being here today. Fifth question is, sometimes your opinions and votes will be at odds with perhaps the majority of the board. How will you support these decisions?
I think that speaking up respectfully during deliberation is part of a healthy governance and board. And I'm always the one that asks why, that wants to kind of challenge the norm. What's the meaning behind it? How do we get there? Understand someone else's position, because we can't make an informed decision unless we really understand what the others are bringing to the table. Learning, we can all learn and we can all grow. So we can't come into it with one set idea. We have to be open-minded. And then once a decision is made, you are part of a board, which means you're representing the whole district when you're out having coffee with friends. And so you need to make sure you're supporting that board decision. It may not have been the way you wanted that vote to go, but in public, you need to be able to explain the board's position and why you're going to support that decision moving forward.
Great, thank you. All right, being a board member is a time-consuming commitment of service. Do you feel you will be able to meet the demands of this role? Do you have and wish to disclose any potential conflicts of interest that would be relevant to performing school director duties and functions?
Yes, I do believe I can meet the time commitment. I will jokingly say that my wife told me I wasn't ever satisfied having all the irons in the fire. I needed more irons and possibly a bigger fire. So yes, I'm experienced in juggling board service, career, and a home life, and theater at all times. And currently I don't have any conflicts, although if any were to arise, I would of course recuse myself.
Question number 7, explain how you have grown and nurtured collaborative partnerships within the community.
I think it's a great one. And I have seen that both in my position on the board at Music Theater, producing programs, fundraising, sponsor relationships are all really important to us. Co-producing musicals and dramas up at the high school, just trying to nurture that deep school partnership. And one I think that will make us all laugh is the boys at the high school tend to use the mariachi room to get dressed in, and boys are maybe not the cleanest in the mariachi room. So trying to juggle that relationship with the teacher who has the room during the day and the boys at night that then have left their clothes and deodorant all over. So we're always trying to work those through. I think I'm known, if you asked my peers, for bringing groups together, following through on commitments, and creating partnerships that benefit our community. I'm also a board member for Small Miracles, which provides lunches to kids during the summer. And we see all kinds of partnership opportunities that come through that. More recently, we've been providing snacks through that committee for high school athletics, and it's been great. So I have a real desire to learn about others, about their culture, and how programs that I'm involved with can nurture those and kind of cohabitate.
Thank you. The Wenatchee School District is proud of its diverse student population. Please describe your experiences with diverse populations in the Wenatchee Valley.
I think it starts back to attending an elementary school that was considered low income at the time. So really seeing all aspects of what kids are coming to school with. And later working at that same school, seeing the other side of the coin, the parts that you didn't see as a student. And I think that everyone deserves to feel like they belong in their community, in their school, in their home. And unfortunately, that's not always the case. And so in any program I'm involved in, I really want to be known for being supportive and advocating for those kids and staff that are all part of our community here in the Valley.
Thank you. Last question, and it's for us. Do you have a question for the board?
So I was really inquisitive on how you felt that a new board member could contribute most effectively in the next few months.
I'll take a stab at it. I think that knowing that this is a short time frame, getting up to speed on the whole district would be impossible. And so being able to kind of dive into whatever we're working on, I think that is going to be an important role for a 5-month stint. And then also understanding, is this something that you would like to run for and then do again? I think, getting a taste also for what this actually looks like, I think is an important thing to know, that if you want to run, what you're actually going to be facing.
For sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say that I think all of us are probably hungry for a new member to be provocative with ideas, but listen and learn at the same time. People say that you have to learn on the board before you get your feet under you, and that's true. But in the course of that, you can bring in new perspectives and new ideas right from the beginning.
I was going to tell you what, as somebody that was appointed and Martin was on the board, I was going to tell you what Martin told me when I sat in that chair. But he already did. He did. He recycled the response. So sorry, that's all I got.
Yeah, I'll just kind of to what Martin said, it's we all know that we have unique and differing interests and why that's why you're here, but it's really so much of a learning process at the beginning. And so it is jumping in and listening and really funneling questions through other board members or through the superintendent and not being afraid to ask. But just really coming with an open mind, but not feeling like we've done all the work for you, just sit back and relax. And I don't think you have that mentality by any means. It's helpful that you have some public background experience anyway. So it's, you're not under the disillusion that things happen in a day or anything like that. So it's really just kind of being a sponge, but not being afraid to ask questions and learn and question what we're doing, because it might be new to you.
Great. That was all I had.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we have completed all the interviews, and the school board now recessed in an executive session for a period of 30 minutes until 6:57. Yep. To evaluate the qualifications of the candidates for appointment to the board. Pursuant to district policy number 1410 and RCW 423110, this discussion will be closed to the public. The school board is expected to take action following the executive session. We're going to extend for 15 more minutes to 7:12. Thanks. Okay, we're gonna reconvene the meeting. Do I have a motion to appoint a candidate to the open board position number 4?
I would make a motion that we appoint Mark Belton to the open board position number 4.
Have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it has been moved by Julie and seconded by Maria. Any discussion?
The only discussion, I think, I will all echo this, is we had really strong and very, very helpful candidates. It was not easy to take a decision. That's why we had an extra 15 minutes. And we're really grateful for everybody who came forward. I hope that you can support the school district in many ways, possibly even as candidates in the future. And we are very lucky to have had such people applying as candidates, as for the application.
I will second that.
I would like to just thank everybody that took the time to interview. This is a pitch. We will have an at-large position open. Filing is the week of May 9th through 5th through the 9th. And so we encourage our applicants to, we got a little bit of taste and encourage to file to run.
Yeah, I'll just say thank you, everyone that did interview. It was a challenging decision. Everyone brought a really unique skill set, and would be very valuable to have any one of them on the board. So do consider that putting your name in if you really want to run for this one, but then also the at-large later, because it was a tough decision. So thank you all.
Yes. All right. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 0125 affirming the appointment of Mark Belton and it says the motion. Okay, roll call vote for the motion for Julie's motion. Right. Martin,
Aye.
Maria,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Okay, motion carries. All right, now the next motion. Do I have a motion to approve resolution? Oh, isn't that what we just did? No, do I have a motion to approve resolution 0125 affirming the appointment of Mark Belton to position number 4 on the board of directors?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so moved by Julie and seconded by Maria. Those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Motion carries. All right, I'd like to thank all the candidates in serving, with your interest in serving on the Wenatchee School Board. I want to remind everyone the filing period is for the at-large board position number 5 and board position number 4 will be open from board position number 1. Sorry, Julie, it's written in there. Will be open from May 5th through 9th for the upcoming November elections. And the superintendent and executive assistant will be reaching out to Mark to schedule a meeting with you. Sorry, out there in TV land. And the meeting is adjourned.